going to say, well, you have seniority, we're still going to put you in there. No, if it gets that bad, your minutes will be cut to almost minimal. So he's got to be able to step up, but I think he will. I mean, again, you said you look at the numbers, they're really pretty good. He had moments where, he looked like the type of guy that we expected. That game against Oregon is the one that comes to mind the most, where he took over that game and he has the athleticism. But the main thing, that's what we got to see a little bit more from him. When we saw his film in high school, we thought, man, this is a guy that's going to want to run the floor up and down. Again, how much did the injury factor into that? We'll never really know. But you want to see him be able to run the floor a little bit more, because that's what the offense lacked last year that they really needed. They were not a good half-court team, but they didn't have guys that could consistently run the floor, so you were kind of stuck playing half-court basketball and just having to figure that out. If he can run the floor and you can get somebody else that can run the floor with him, watch out. They have a chance to be very successful.
Yeah, there's a lot of good things coming out that have leaked from the Carolina program about the offseason that he had, the practice he's had leading up into the season, and basically saying he's a much more in shape player. He's a much more physical player. It may not matter, because the guy behind him that everyone's talking about, Day'Ron Sharpe, has impressed every person that's been to Carolina and seen Carolina practice this year. The report came out that he is the second best player on the team already. Now, of course, we don't know how true that is. We're about to find out. But this seems like a guy that probably by the time we get to ACC play will probably be Garrison Brooks' running mate. And Mark said the thing about him that every one of us will love as Tar Heel fans is the motor that he plays with. The relentless energy on both ends of the court is infectious. It'll permeate throughout the whole team. And I think by the time we get to the ACC season, he actually will be a starter. But when it comes to him and Walker Kessler, what should we expect from these guys day one when they step on the court? Because they didn't have a normal offseason. They didn't get in here and get the normal time with the current staff. They got some interaction with the former players, but not as much as they usually get because of COVID. So is there a chance for us to see them not be as, I'm not going to say as good, as important roles on the interior right away, or should we still expect high things from these guys from day one? Mark, I'll let you take this one.
I think we can expect high things from day one. Obviously, as you alluded to, I fully expect Brooks and Bacot to start. And I think that Kessler and Sharpe will get 3-4 minute stints here and there. And I think more important than maybe other seasons because of the short season, it'll be crucial for them to make the most of their minutes and their opportunities early. If they can get involved, make big hustle play. Kessler maybe knock down a three. Sharpe, brings a lot as far as on the boards. If they can get in and make that small impact initially and then let it grow to the time where it gets to ACC play, and maybe it's a flat split of minutes between Brooks and Bacot and then Sharpe and Kessler. Obviously, Brooks is going to take up a portion of it, but I think it's only to Carolina's benefit if these four are rotating in and out. Josh, you mentioned it earlier, but this front court has the opportunity. You said maybe ever. I agree with that, but I think a lot of the 09 team, when you had Tyler Hansborough, Deion Thompson, Zeller, and I believe it was Ed Davis.
Yeah.
You can rotate these four in similar to that, and they can kind of find their niche, each one, what it is, what they can contribute, what their role is. That will be absolutely huge, and that will open up the outside for what appears to be a plethora of shooters that'll be sitting there. You'll have Puff Johnson, you'll have Kerwin Walton, you'll have Playtech, you'll have Harris, you'll have Davis. I mean, there will be plenty of options. If we can dominate down low and open it up outside, I think that will be a force to be reckoned with.
See, I think the concern that you have with these guys not being able to go in and go through a regular offseason is more on the defensive end than it is on the offensive end. I feel like the offensive end, especially for big men, it's a little bit easier for them to come in, transition, Their offensive games are usually a little more on par with what you're going to see from them for their entire career when they get to campus. It's the defensive end where you just got to kind of be concerned about how well they're going to be able to do the one thing that Carolina couldn't do last year, switch effectively. Those are the types of things that you're going to be concerned about. But, Mark talked about it a little while ago. Part of that is going to be, can Garrison Brooks sort of help these guys as the season goes along, sort of grow along with that. But, I mean, you look, that's the one thing that's really good about, Day'Ron Sharpe having a high motor. High motor guys are guys that can pick up on stuff really quick. They're going to at least give you the effort. All they have to do is learn, strategically when to be in the right places, stuff like that. So I think that's something that's very teachable. And I mean, Walker Kessler is another guy that I think, you look at his length. That's the thing that's so intriguing about Walker Kessler and a reason why he can fit in so many different places. He's a 7-foot guy that can step away from the basket and knock down a three-point shot. I mean, that's something that we just haven't really seen a whole lot at Carolina. Luke May was able to step away from the basket and knock shots down. He was a good rebounder. Luke May was 6'9". He wasn't 7 foot. Walker Kessler is a little bit bigger, and still should be able to help you on the glass as well. I think that comparison to the 09 team is relatively justified. I think one thing that that's going to be different from that 09 team for sure is because of how much talent they have down there. They need to go inside more often than they have in the last couple of years, and I think they will. But overall, I think these guys have enough raw talent, raw ability, and everything that we've heard from camp so far has said that Day'Ron Sharpe has looked really good. If he's the second best player on the team, that's not just because he's impressed because he's a big guy and he's got a motor or whatever. He's doing it on the defensive end. He's in the, he's doing the right things he's got to do on the offensive end as well. He must be rebounding well. So those are the things that are very encouraging.
For
that to come out of practice, he has to be rebounding because obviously we know the emphasis that Roy has on that.
For sure.
Yeah, and Garrison Brooks made the comment at Media Day that this team, if they're not the best rebounding team in college basketball, which they have been the last 3 to 4 years, it'll be considered a disappointment. And that'll be something, that's one thing I was like, Carolina. If Carolina is a good rebounding team, they're historically going to be a pretty good team. Last year's kind of the outlier. Before we move on, got to note that Sterling Manley is coming back from injury. He's going to have, you'd imagine he'd have some role, but I think with Bixter this year, anything he gives you is a bonus. But it'll be very judicious the amount of time he's on the court and how long he actually does play for Carolina. The guy in the front court that I think is more important than any guy we've talked about, and I've stressed this since the season ended and we got into the offseason, is Leaky Black. I think he is the most important piece to how good Carolina is outside of finding out who that point guard is going to be for the majority of the season. We know it's going to be Caleb Love, but how effective is Caleb Love going to be? We're going to find out. But Leaky Black is a guy that, since he got to Carolina, has somewhat underwhelmed, and it's not all been his fault. He's battled injuries both years, and last year I think the losing just took the confidence he had in himself, and his offensive game has suffered. But he's been very adamant about being in the gym. He's put on his social media about all the work he's done. He spent a lot of time with Hubert Davis trying to fix his shot and become a more consistent shooter. If I remember, going back to last year, if you take the way he played in the first half of the Duke game, where he was energetic, he was on the floor, he was diving, making plays. If Carolina can get that version of Leaky Black for the 27 games that they're going to play, they're going to be a really tough team because he can do so many things to impact the game, whether he's scoring the ball or not. He's still the team's best perimeter defender. Wasn't saying a whole lot last year, but it still counts. He can still run your offense if you need him to. He can. He has a very wide range of ways to score. So, am I wrong for thinking that he's the most important piece for Carolina's success going into the season?
You're stealing my thunder for the breakout player. No, for me, I think a lot of the Carolina fan base has been patiently awaiting for him to kind of fill that Theo Pinson role. He's got, obviously, length. He's got athleticism. He's an energy guy. He's a lockdown defender. He's got so many things that he can offer specifically to this team. He's so versatile in terms of the different positions he can play, who he can guard. He just offers a lot. For me, it's kind of, okay, Leaky, believe in yourself. Have confidence. Get out of your own way. Roy says it all the time. Go play basketball, get lost in the game, and see what happens. He's 2 years under his belt. I really hope and think that this could be the breakout year that the entire Carolina fan base has thought he would develop into ever since he committed. He committed early.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that I think we don't talk about enough with Leaky when it comes to what affected him last year was the fact that he just could never figure out what his position was because he was moved around so often. He would settle in, get comfortable at the three, playing well, or starting to play well. All of a sudden, all right, Leaky, we got to move you to the one man. Cole's down. We can't really find anybody else. We don't have a veteran presence at point guard. We need you to slide over to the one. Gets comfortable playing the point guard position. Okay, now we're going to kick you back over to the three. So now that that it seems like, at least on the surface, that they're going to stick with him at that three spot, I think that's going to help him out a lot. He's got the size to be able to rebound. He's got the defensive skill set. We saw that. That's why he draws the comparisons to Theo Pinson. And here's the other thing. Theo did not get off to the quickest start at Carolina either. Now, Theo was a different player because when Theo came in, Theo was nearly a 5-star. Theo was a guy that was seen as, believe it or not, a three-point shooter. Of course, that really didn't pan out the way that we thought. But at the same time, I feel like you can't really just say, okay, well, he hasn't performed now. We need to move on. We need to find another wing. This guy just hasn't gotten it. Some of the guys in Roy's system, it takes them a little bit of time to become those type of players that we expected them to be. So I think, he's definitely got a chance. But like I said, the biggest thing for him is knowing what his role is going to be this year. I think that's really going to help him to be able to settle in, become a little bit more comfortable. You said it. He's been working on his shot in the offseason with Hubert Davis. The more he works on that shot, the better I think it's going to be. Because we saw there were times last year where he would get it together for a stretch and he could consistently knock down a couple of shots. If you could get that from him this year at the three, where we need some good perimeter shooting, but also have him as a guy that can drive the basket, which we saw him do well at times last year, and rebound, that'd be exactly what you'd want from him, and they could step up on the defensive end and be one of your leaders down there too. I think it's definitely possible.
Yeah. Needless to say, Carolina needs him to have much more of an impact on the game than they did a year ago, mainly because, as we'll transition to the backcourt, when it comes to the backcourt right now, there's way more questions than answers. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. You didn't have a whole off season. You didn't get to have secret scrimmages. You didn't get to have a late night with Roy.
And we knew there were going to be questions from the get-go anyways.
You don't know how these young guys are going to react to having to play such a big role. It's been a while since Carolina has been this young in the backcourt. You think back to the last time, because there will probably be a game or two where there's going to be two freshmen in the backcourt, most likely Caleb Love and R.J. Davis. That hasn't happened since Ty Lawson and Wayne Ellington back in 07-08, and I know that team made the Elite Eight, but that team also had Tyler Hansborough. You're entering this year with Andrew Platek as your most experienced backcourt player. There's a lot of noise saying that he'll probably be a starter early on with Anthony Harris not being ready to go when the season gets underway, just because the freshmen aren't where they normally are at this time before the season gets underway, which puts a lot of emphasis and pressure on Caleb Love. Now, a guy who's coming in who fits Carolina's system a lot better than Cole Anthony. Some people said Carolina's got an immediate upgrade at the point guard position in Caleb Love. And as we're sitting here recording, Cole Anthony's about to get drafted in the first round of the NBA draft, so that's saying something. But there's a lot of questions about this backcourt because you've got four youngsters who can shoot the ball and can play really good offensive ball, but we don't know how they're going to defend. So, Mark, when you look at this backcourt, what are you looking for to find out during this season?
I mean, like I said, I'm super excited about it. I think Davis is, you mentioned specifically defense. And I think he's got that grit and can be a lockdown defender on the perimeter for Carolina. I mean, he's just a strong effort guy who can also very much score the ball. So, they are inexperienced, but the thing that I love about it is so deep. And you have Caleb Love can't be. But when you look at the 2 and the 3, especially when you consider Leaky at the 3, you've got 5 or 6 guys there that are interchangeable. So if somebody's not getting it done on the defensive end, you have other options you can go to.